Good evening. We'll call to order the Citizen Involvement Committee meeting of October 1st, 2018. We'll start with calling the roll. Dennis will call out the neighborhood association and reply back with your name.
Kanema? Linda?
Here.
Two Rivers?
Brian Royce.
Gaffney Lane? Park Place?
Steve Van Haverbeek.
Hillendale?
Roy Harris.
Tower Vista?
Vern Johnson.
McLaughlin?
James King.
Rivercrest?
Karen Morey.
Caulfield?
Mike Mitchell.
Berkeley Hills?
Janice Morris.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. We have two presentations on our agenda. First is from Oregon City Together, and Commissioner Brian Shaw would like to introduce our guests and tell you a little bit about the program.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell. Yes, we have Pam Wilson, who's the coordinator for OC Together, and Paige Hurt, who is the vice coordinator of the group, I think. I'm not sure your title is there, Paige, but I sit with these folks on OC Together, which is a group that is trying to mitigate the use of marijuana and alcohol in the schools. And we just got the health report, student health report back. And we were talking about it for a little while, and I figured, you know what? I think we need to get a broader reach for this study that people could look at it and just see what's actually going on in the schools. And I thought we'd start here tonight, and then if other neighborhoods, the neighborhoods want to bring this program out to their neighborhood so more folks and parents know about this, the better. So I'd like to get Pam and Paige up here and tell them about this program.
I got one. Yeah, you already gave me one. Okay. And thanks, Commissioner Shaw. What you may not know about Brian, I mean, he said he was on our board, but he's really one of our most active board members. And clearly, he's been on our board and clearly a champion for children and youth in our community. So thank you for that. We really, really appreciate it. Let me get this down here. Okay. And we're pleased to be here. I know that you all deal with land use issues, and Senate Bill 100 and our 19 land use goals certainly have a lot to shape the future of our community, but also the state of our youth have a lot to do with shaping the future of our community. So we think it's really appropriate, and we're pleased to be able to be here and give you kind of the state of youth as it has to do with marijuana and alcohol. Let's see which way here. So we're going to remind you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and give you some statistics that, as Brian said, will give you an idea, an overview of how our kids are doing in the Oregon City School District. We're a local community coalition. We really reflect the community we serve. And Paige, you got anything here, huh? We like each other, we get along, we have fun, we really have fun together. I mean, this was in DC at one of the leadership meetings we've gone to, but we do, when we volunteer and so forth, we enjoy each other. And then for some people, it's a family affair. We have moms with their kids, parents with their kids participating. Here's someone from Kanema, I believe, Angela Wright. Is she Kanema? Oh, what is she?
I think it's Gaffney.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that is what she is. She's our neighborhood association, and she does a great job. She's just always really helpful, always there for us. And she's usually kind of becoming our unofficial greeter. So her friendly face greets a lot of our guests. And we have youth on our board, and we think this is really critical to our success because kids help us reach other kids, which is one of our goals. We focus on prevention. Every 5 years, we have to do a community assessment. And our last community assessment showed us that clearly marijuana and alcohol are the major problems for our kids, the highest incidence when it comes to substance abuse. And we have a federal grant excuse me, it's a SAMHSA grant, and today, October 1st, we've had it for 5 years, and today marks the beginning of another 5-year cycle. And we're excited, we just received a grant from Clackamas County, and the county now is using, for the first time, marijuana tax dollars to fund marijuana prevention. And most jurisdictions are not doing this. So it's clearly something we acknowledge them for, because I think they've been very farsighted and looking down to the future on wanting to prevent problems before they occur. And our strategies are research-based, best practices. So we do parent education, parent training, teen education, teen awareness, and policy and environmental changes to prevent marijuana and alcohol use. Those are our main strategies, right? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, okay. So because we are research-based, we conduct surveys. We do a parent survey every year. The school district does this for us. And actually, the school district is our fiscal agent, so they're a very strong partner. And they also conduct the Oregon Student Wellness Survey, which is done every other year. So I'm going to give you some of the responses that we had from our most current studies. And here's some information from the parent survey. And we ask the same questions every year. This year, we used a new survey tool and changed the timing of our survey a little bit, and our response really almost tripled from parents. So you see some changes in numbers here, but we believe because of the highest response, the 2018 numbers are the most accurate, and then we'll know more about when we do the survey again this year, next year, we'll see what that trend is looking like. But parents who talk to their kids early and often is the best protective factor for kids, as is preventing them from using drugs. So we asked them about, are they talking to their kids? And this is going to be the topic of our county grant. We're going to do a lot more work with increasing awareness among parents of how important this is. Again, having clear rules, consistent rules, parents having clear rules about using drugs is another really great protective factor. And that's one of the reasons we asked this question, obviously. Now, the student wellness, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, ask a question anytime.
So every one of those between 2017 and 2018 seem to have gone the wrong direction.
They have, and it is.
Is that, you said there was a difference in the survey method?
Yes, we think it is the survey because we asked the same questions, but this year we used SurveyMonkey, which is a much better looking survey tool, which I think really increased the response. So we are thinking there's, we don't think that there's that big of a difference because clearly if there was, it's all those definitely are going in the wrong direction. Yeah. So that's why it's really going to tell when we come back a year from now and we have another survey under our belt because we just don't know. Okay. But anything.
Well, and the sample size made a huge difference. As Pam mentioned, in 2018, we more than doubled the sample size, and so that just skews from the data collection standpoint.
So, but there are some big disparities between those numbers, clearly, So the Student Wellness Survey, the school district does in partnership with the Oregon Health Authority. Every other year, pretty much most of the school districts across the state do it. And so this is the one they did this spring. So clearly marijuana use is increasing in our community amongst our 6th, 8th, and 11th graders. While it's increasing though, even for the 11th graders that have the highest rate, it's still about 1 in 4. So, a lot of kids in middle school think that, everybody in high school is, using marijuana, but clearly this is not the case. But still, we really need to work and keep these numbers low. Now, this one alarms us, quite frankly, because obviously if you think something's not harmful, you're going to be more likely to use it. So when we look at this, particularly among the 6th graders, they had a big drop in their perception of harm. So again, this is why we're so excited to have the county grant, because we're really, with that grant, we're going to focus on 6th graders and go down as far as 5th graders too, because we see this as a precursor possibly to increased marijuana use. And it's interesting to note also that the 11th graders, they think that alcohol is way more harmful than marijuana. And I think some of that might be because in the same survey, they asked questions about drinking and driving. So I think maybe, even though this is, quantitative survey, it doesn't give us qualitative, on the whys, but we're thinking that might be why there's such a big difference. And so sixth graders think that marijuana in alcohol is easier to get now, and 11th graders think it's not so easy. And then there's 5 questions in the survey that they ask about happiness, depression, stress, anxiety. And so then they group them together and give them a score. And the students that are at or above this score are clearly stressed, anxious, and may have mental health problems that need to be dealt with. So that's kind of a mouthful, but clearly this shows that our students in the school district are increasingly more stressed and more anxious. And why we track this in particular is because kids who are stressed, kids who are anxious, use marijuana and alcohol 2 to 3 times more than kids who don't. I mean, some of this seems like, common sense in many ways, but now we have it in survey form that clearly they use a lot more. Anything to add to that?
I would just say that, so the MHI stands for mental health inventory. And so if you were interested in what exactly those questions are and what the students are asked, you could just Google it and it'll tell you what the MHI 5 questions are.
Great, thank you. And it's the same for alcohol use. Kids who are stressed and anxious use alcohol more than other kids. And that's kind of one of the reasons behind the Healthy Futures film series that we're kicking off this week. We are starting with 2 films. The Be Here Tomorrow, it represents suicide, the ripple effect. That is a young man, Kevin Hines? Yeah, Kevin Hines, who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. He obviously survived. Now he's a huge advocate for suicide prevention. So we feel that this is a really important film. It's going to be shown at the Oregon Trail Center. Thank you, Brian, for getting that donated. And it's sold out for this Thursday, October 4th, but we're showing it again next Wednesday, October 10th. And I have flyers here for you. I'm going to leave to remind you. And then Angst is a really critical, important film for youth, young adults, and their families, and also educators, really anyone. It's going to talk about anxiety, what it is, symptoms of it, and what we can do about it. And it has interviews with young people, teens, and parents, as well as experts that are going to provide advice and resources and how they've handled it and what they've learned. And then afterwards, we're going to have a local panel of experts and teens and parents to really provide more advice and more resources. And you're on that panel.
I am. So right now we've, afterward, so we have a pediatrician, a school psychologist, a school counselor, a parent, a youth who have experienced anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of a good spectrum of people to provide kind of local resources after the movie. And this, again, is kind of part of the research-based strategies we do to increase awareness and education. And how you can help, again, I'm going to leave flyers. We'd love to talk to any neighborhood group about what we do and provide this statistical information. Every year, we think really everybody in the community is a stakeholder on this information. So we want it to go far and wide. And again, really having money for prevention is critical to us. So having jurisdictions that provide marijuana taxes to keep our kids off of marijuana is something we advocate for and would like support on that from anyone. So thank you. Any questions, comments?
Just
Yeah.
one side comment. My wife and I teach first grade Sunday school, and I did have a first grader come up and tell me, when I get older, I'm going to smoke weed. And I just said, why do you want to do that? It goes, because my dad does.
Well,
So
yeah.
you just try to say, well, it's not good. But, it is out there, the issue.
It is, and I think we have a community norm that, perception of harm, that it's not harmful, because, it's been medicinal for 20 years and so forth, which it certainly is a different for adults than it is for young people. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Great, thank you, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, you bet.
And thanks for the good work.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
the flyers, the flyers have contact information if anyone here wants to get you to, or
Yes.
to their neighborhood association
This
meeting.
one does, yes.
Okay, and you're going to pass those around?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that it's
Great. Brian, anything you want to add?
No, that's, I would encourage each neighborhood to think about this a little bit, and the more informed we can make our parents, the better. And
Thank you.
I think that's probably about it. Mike, thanks for the opportunity to do this.
All right. Thank you. And next, we have a presentation from Friends of Trees, and I apologize, I don't know who this is making the presentation. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Erica Tim. I manage our Neighborhood Trees program, which is the program I'll tell you a little bit more about, and we have a planting coming up in December. So I'm just here to share a little bit about who we are and what we've done and what we're going to do with you all. So I'll get started. All right, thank you. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight. It should only be a few minutes, but I'd love to start by, has anybody here planted with Friends of Trees in the past? You were a truck driver with us, right?
Yeah, the last couple of years.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Great. Well, you might know a little
Shame
bit.
on you.
You might know a little bit more about this, and I invite you all to come out this year. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We started out in Northeast Portland about 30 years ago. A neighbor there was just interested in getting to know more of his neighbors and wanted to get more eyes on the street for like safety reasons, and happened to notice that there weren't a lot of trees on his street, and was like, why don't I organize a tree planting? And brought people together, and they really started having conversations and getting to know one another a little bit more. And so he ended up creating a nonprofit, and now today we're in about 20 communities throughout Oregon and Southwest Washington. Started saying part of this, but I think kind of the thing here is that we've really planted over 750,000 native trees and native shrubs throughout this time. And so moving into our 30th planting season, we are also expanding a little bit within Oregon City and offering it to a few more neighborhoods. So I wanted to come here tonight and just share that with you, since not all of you have had the opportunity to come out. We do have two different programs here in Oregon City proper. We plant in our Neighborhood Trees program, which is really larger sized trees that are planted in people's yards and along the streets. We work with about 3,500 volunteers a year, and we plant 4,000 trees throughout the Portland metro area, Portland-Vancouver metro area. Our Green Spaces program, I wanted to mention, because we do work in the greater Clackamas County area, in Milwaukee, Westland, a couple of other areas near here, and they do more restoration style planting, so along rivers and in green spaces such as parks and whatnot, and they plant a lot more of the smaller little plants, but that make a big difference over time. So if that's more of your excitement, then that is there for you too. So Friends of Trees in Oregon City, we actually started our first planting here back in 1999, and we planted here for a year or two. Unfortunately, our records aren't all that great for the number of trees we planted during that time, but we were here for a minute, and then we had a 15-year lull, and then we had the opportunity to work with the urban planning here to bring us back in 2015. We did an Arbor Day planting at Eastham School, where we planted 10 or 15 trees at that time with the students, and it was a really great event. And then since then, the last couple of years, we've been offering our Neighborhood Trees style model, where we really work beyond schools and work with individuals to plant at their homes as well. And so part of that is offering you the opportunity to come out and plant and meet your neighbors. And what we often find is it's not so much just getting trees in the ground, but people are actually enjoying each other's company, and we end with a potluck lunch, so you really get that time to connect with the people that are in your neighborhood and also planting trees, or just out generally volunteering. So we started out in McLaughlin and Barclay Hills. In 2016, we added Rivercrest, and then last year we actually did a small planting in South End as well. And then this year is when we're expanding out to several additional neighborhoods outside those original 3, because the vision for the city is really wanting to be able to offer this to more and more residents, not to just centralize it into a couple of neighborhoods. So the vision is together, trying to grow slowly into additional neighborhoods. So Gaffney Lane, Hazel Grove, Hillendale, South End, Tower Vista. If you're in any of those neighborhoods, I encourage you to just, Google Friends of Trees. We have an Oregon City specific website I have at the end, and think about joining us or just sharing it with your neighbors. I also have some flyers I can hand out. But since we started planting here in 2015, we have added 308 trees to the neighborhoods we've been planting in. So it is making a small impact towards just urban heat island, stormwater management, habitat, and all of the other good things trees provide. So what's next? So our planting this year is on December 1st. It's typically that first weekend in December, that first Saturday. You still have about a month to sign up for trees. So if you are interested in getting trees with us, you can sign up by October 29th. And what that does is just lets us know you're interested and gives us enough time, if you do want a tree along the street, for us to come out and assess that space, make sure there's no conflicting utilities, and then we're able to give you that information, your list of trees, and you can pick them. We do request a $35 copay just to help pay for some of the general costs, but if that's a financial barrier, we can definitely work with people on the cost. So if you or any neighbors that would be interested, but finances are a barrier, but they'd want a tree, just reach out to us. We want to help you get a tree. And then, we never want to leave you out there hungry and not caffeinated. So we start the day with hot coffee and breakfast snacks, and then you head out to plant and you come back. And folks in the neighborhood have also helped sponsor usually a soup potluck lunch, as we have. And so we try to offer vegan, gluten-free, and multiple different options no matter what your dietary needs are. You can come back, enjoy that with the team that you went out planting. Hopefully you got to meet some good people. I believe James has planted with the same crew leaders twice in a row, if I remember right.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, and so that was actually a really fun coincidence, but I know they were really excited about it. And so and so it ends up being a really fun day. We have a lot of first-time volunteers come to us and just come a little nervous, and I feel like most people end feeling pretty good and pretty happy. We provide all of the trees, tools, everything. Really, all you have to do is show up, and if it's raining, try to remember a raincoat, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. And so for more information, this is the Oregon City Focused website. So if you go to friendsoftrees.org/OC, that will take you to the page that my coworker Ian, he's in the purple vest in that photo there, manages, and just make sure it has all the details for the Oregon City events up there. And he couldn't be there tonight. He'd be here tonight. He's in another location, but he's really the primary contact. Him and I work on this planting together, but he does a lot of the inspections and can answer a lot of those very detailed questions if you're interested very specifically about your property. That is all I had tonight. Are there any questions or comments?
So I was interested in the park side of things that
Yeah.
you mentioned.
The more green
Yeah,
green
that's
cell
right.
restorations.
Do you work with other organizations and setting those things up?
Yeah, so I work in the Neighborhood Trees program, our green space program. I know they often will work with watershed councils or other organizations that are working in that area. So if you're interested, I could definitely connect you with my coworker Logan, and he can let you know kind of the details of the sites closest to here. Yeah,
Yeah, I would be interested.
great. Well, I would love to connect you.
Yeah, we have Oregon City Parks Foundation.
Yeah.
It's been doing work in the Oregon City Parks. We haven't gotten to planting yet, but we will at some point in
Yeah.
the next couple of years.
No, that would be great. Well, I will give you some information. It gives information on our different
Sure.
programs, but you can also feel free to connect with us directly as well, and
Great.
I'd love to connect you. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Determining the type of tree, how does one go about that? I mean,
Yeah, great.
if you were to put it out to the neighborhood that we offer this for planning, is there a selection? Is there any kind of like,
Yeah, Definitely. So for our yard trees, we typically try to offer like medium and large scale yard trees and then some fruit trees. So typically that's just yards tend to have a little more space than the confined street spaces. So we offer native options as well as some ornamental stuff with fall color and flowers. For the spaces between the street and the sidewalk or closest to the street if there is no sidewalk, we do a site inspection. So my coworker Ian will actually come out and he's worked with the city on kind of what their parameters are, how close to various utilities, if there are overhead power lines, what are we looking for? And so our goal is to provide a tree that will do the best in that size space. So if it's a very narrow planting strip, you're only gonna have small tree options because we don't want trees that are going to disrupt the infrastructure around. If it's a larger space with no overhead wires, you might be able to have some of those larger trees, such an oak tree. And what happens once you get that site inspection, if you have email, you'll get an automatic email that says, hey, come take a look at your tree list. And what we've done is kind of tailored a tree list for you. And when you log in, it looks a lot like, for lack of a better descriptor, like Netflix for trees. You have a bunch of little profiles and you click on the tree and then it gives you a little bit more information. We don't have like trailers of the trees talking or anything, which would be really cute, but at least gives you a little bit more information. So our goal is to kind of lead you in the right direction for the size of your space of what you will be planting. Yeah, and so he also is, we've had multiple conversations with the person who does the utility locates here too, to make sure that we're kind of within the interests of that program as well.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Great, well, I will go and pass around these flyers that I have, and if there are any questions, please do feel free to connect with us. We would love to help you with trees.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any comment cards?
No, you don't.
Comment cards?
Sorry.
Okay. Anyone in the audience that didn't get a chance to turn in a card yet want to make a comment? Okay, no public comments. So we'll move on to staff liaison update on questions from our last meeting.
Thank you. We actually didn't have any specific questions for me to respond to, but I'm going to use this time to kind of highlight some of the emails you've been receiving from me the last week. The city has a community survey, so please do forward that on to your contacts in your neighborhood so we can get a good sample size to our survey. Kristen Brown was providing that, and that'll give a lot of information, help the city commission move forward with their goals next year and kind of determine the pulse of the city. Two, you've noticed a couple digests I've been sending. Those are from Kristen Brown. She sends those on Nextdoor as well. And so she sends them to me once a month. I don't get them in time for the agenda, but I send it out in an email to all the CIC and neighborhood members. And so there's a lot of kind of what's going on in October. So please do forward that to your organization as well, if that's appropriate. And for Friends of Trees, I will get some good information and put that in an email as well for people who sometimes need an email reminder. And you can forward that information on to your organization next week. So I'm available as tonight if there's anything, as we move forward, you can let me know during roundtable if there's anything I need to do some research on for next meeting.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Well, okay. Next on the list is public hearing relating to a couple of grievances that were filed before the grievance process was removed from our code. So we'll start, Christina, you want to give us a little background, and then we'll have Vern present the findings from the grievance committee.
Thank you. So the grievance process, as you recall from Chapter 2.30, 060, talks about how the grievance process starts with forming a grievance committee. They hear the grievance, go through a public hearings process, deliberate, and come up with findings, which you will find on your dais today. You'll see them. They look like this, and they have the back page signed. So, we'll hear a more formal presentation, but there was a draft in the agenda for the grievance committee this evening. They reviewed it, they've amended it, and they've signed it. So you will hear a presentation in the grievance committee after I finish speaking. And then what the CIC needs to do is open up the public hearing again, in a sense. This is a subcommittee that ran through, and they're just providing a recommendation, but the Citizen Involvement Committee needs to do their own review of the grievance and allow the public hearings process to be opened. So I have not heard from anybody who wants to speak tonight, but we can have a call out. After the public hearings process is closed, the CIC will review the grievance as recommended by the Grievance Committee and determine if they need to be any amendments to the grievance, or if they agree or disagree with the Grievance Committee and they want any revisions to the findings. And then if they can come up with a agreement, there can be a motion this evening. If they need more information, as always, can be continued. When the public hearing starts, you'll need to provide any disclosures of ex parte contact or conflict of interest as well.
All right. Vern Johnson was the chair of the Grievance Committee. Vern, you want to give us a summary of
Sure.
our findings?
We really had 2 grievances that were filed over a period of time from November of 17 through April of 18. And we looked at both of them, they were kind of joined together, so we looked at them as one hearing, but we do come out with 2 recommendations on individual files. And it's, as Christina said, it's all on this page if everybody's looking at it to try and follow along. I don't think we need to read every word of it in, but to at least get you to the right page that you can follow a little bit what we're doing. The claims were submitted against Berkeley Hills Neighborhood Association Chair Betty Mum and Dan Holliday. The recommendation from our first, the number 1 filing, was our recommendation to the CIC is we find no evidence was found to support the claims. And that will be the action item for the CIC to see if they agree with that recommendation or want to modify it or change it. The second grievance was we recommend for grievance 1801, the CIC find no fault and that the CIC followed the due process outlined in Oregon City Municipal Code 2.3 of 0.060. And that's the quick summary. If anybody has any, are we opening this up for any questions from this group, or do we wait
Yeah, we
until?
will. I think we'll wait till after the public hearing.
Yep, okay. So we've given our final recommendation on both grievances to the CIC, and we'll hear that coming up.
Or would people rather ask questions of Vern now before the public hearing? We can do it either way. Not seeing anybody, looks like they're ready to ask a question. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And the first item, do I need to go individual by individual or just ask everyone about?
I think you can ask everyone if they have
Okay.
any declaration letter.
Does anyone here have any ex parte contacts that they need to disclose? Okay. Any conflicts of interest that anyone needs to disclose? Okay. Anyone in the audience want to question any of the members up here about the statements they just made? Okay. So we'll move on. First up is the applicant, which in this case would be the individuals that filed the grievance. And I believe they are not here. So we will move on to representatives of any neighborhood associations. Okay, any comments from members of the general public? Okay, and applicant rebuttal, that's not going to happen either. So we'll close the public hearing. And now we're open for discussion or questions for Vern, or discussions from the group on what the questions that you have about the findings of the grievance committee and whether or not we can move to a motion tonight. So, questions?
Yeah, I had read the original draft, I did not know that it was a draft. Was there any substantial changes to that?
No, that was not what the changes were. We added a couple of findings of support, kind of as the attorneys reviewed the draft copy. Attorneys wanted to have a little legal stuff in there that we basically did minor modifications, changed nothing, just a clearer presentation so you could read from top to bottom, and it started to make a flow to it.
And then we also changed the order. We start out of the change because we had 1801 first, and we moved that second. We went to 1704.
Yep.
We made one, we just switched
Put
the order.
put it in order of when this original grievance was filed. We had,
And that's not a substantial change.
no, just ease of understanding followed up.
Okay.
Any other questions? Has everyone had enough of an opportunity to read this that someone could consider making a motion? Or do anybody need a little more time?
I would move that we accept the report and act on the recommendations.
I second.
Do we need to say in that motion that we then are passing these findings to the
Yeah, I
city
think
commission?
the best, well, actually, what you,
No, we don't.
no, so this is a final unless called
Okay,
up.
so-
So I think some of the best ways to do it is the CIC could adopt the findings as their own. So accept the grievance committee findings, adopt them as their own could be an appropriate motion.
Okay.
Okay, so I would make a new motion that we accept the findings and adopt them as our own. I believe that's.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I hear a second somewhere?
Second. Yes, I second it.
All right. Moved and seconded to adopt the findings of the grievance committee as our own. Any further discussion? Dennis, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Kanema. And both of mine first, alphabetical. Yes.
The primary, if the primary representative is here, that's who should vote.
Yep, I'm voting yes.
Okay?
Two Rivers,
Yes.
Gaffney Lane, Park Place,
Yes.
Hillendale,
Yes.
Tower Vista,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Rivercrest,
Abstain.
Caulfield,
Yes.
Berkeley Hills.
Abstain.
Can you announce the final count
Oh,
for the record?
8-4, 8 in agreement. Is that what you want me to say?
And two abstentions.
And 2 abstentions,
Yeah.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you, and thanks to the grievance committee members.
Thank you.
Moving on to general business. 6A, work plan number 1, goal 3, develop resources to help maintain active neighborhood associations. Christina.
So where we were last August, talked a little bit about the public involvement plan, and there was kind of a wish to come up with 1 or 2 action items for this next year for the CIC to get more out into the community, both physically and their message. And so a list on your, and I made actually a hard copy of this, so on your packets, you can take a look at our copy, or some options. These are just kind of the list that came out in August, so it's not exclusive. So if you have a great idea tonight, add it to the list. To see how the CIC can be more involved, both in 2 ways. One, explaining kind of what the CIC does and kind of potentially even continue recruiting new members or people who want to be involved, but also, in a sense, how the CIC can help support neighborhood associations be more active and be kind of the best neighborhood associations they can be. So it's kind of a two-part role. We also have a draft little video I can show tonight. Kristen Brown kind of was, this summer was hearing kind of conversations from people about wanting a flyer to talk about who is a CIC and kind of this discussion of we have some empty spaces in our roster. So I do have a little draft video I can show, and that's something the board can take a look at. Is this something you would want to use to do recruitment and kind of both recruit and at the same time talk about who you are? Do you like it as is? Would you recommend any revisions? Christian's all ears to hear how this can be made better. So I can play that at any time in our conversation.
Do it now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
So our audio is not working perfectly, so I'm going to do the low-tech way of cutting my microphone to it. Let's see how it works. I'm gonna do this. It was working better this morning. So this is an idea that we could use for recruitment. We're open to your comments or if you like it as is, or if you want a revision, but kind of how this can be built into some of these other work plan items on the list. I'd be interested in that conversation. So I'll kind of hand it back to Mr. Mitchell tonight for kind of a group conversation.
Okay. Any comments on the video first?
A little
Real
fast.
short.
I'm lost. Why would we recruit for the CIC? The
Well-
CIC is two people from each neighborhood association appointed by their neighborhood association.
True.
Why are we not recruiting for more participation in your neighborhood association?
That can be the second. If this is something people want, that can be a second. I think the goal was, can we talk about who we are as a CIC and also, you notice we don't have all the roster filled right now. So, there are empty spaces. So could we, the neighborhood associations that have spaces to fill, and as we get to the next appointment year, can we use this to kind of gather people to convince them that they want to be on the CIC next time? So that's one option. So that was an idea of, could it be a call to recruitment and a way to talk about what the CIC does?
I agree with Karen. I think what we really need is one, to encourage people to go to their neighborhood association meetings. I've had the opportunity to talk to a few neighborhood associations lately. And good news, bad news. The good news is, I used to think that Caulfield neighborhood really struggled to get people at the meetings. And the bad news is, we're in the same boat with a lot of other neighborhood associations. Some of the ones that were, the things that we've done that were a joint effort of a couple of different neighborhood associations got pretty good turnout, but the ones that was one neighborhood association was very few. And maybe, Brian, we're just too boring and people aren't interested in coming out to hear from candidates.
We thought if we went together that they'd turn out, but it didn't work.
But I guess it was discouraging in that if that's kind of the normal turnout, it's more of a widespread problem than I thought.
I went to the Karen and Kaneema's, Rivercrest and Kaneema's, which I think the two candidates here will agree was a better turnout, 40-some people there, a better organization. I don't know, I haven't been to any others. I don't know how the organization for the others that weren't very many people attending, how it played out. Was it logical and was it on target, or was it scattered all over the map? But I was impressed with the work that went behind the Rivercrest Kanema to get it all organized. They had it all planned out. They happened to have facilities that had a nice stage for the candidates to get up on. And the questions were handled very professional from an audience. Well, I was an audience at that everybody had their fair shot, and same questions took around the table a couple of times. And it appears the audience went away very happy. And the questions were timely for the things going on in the city besides the election. The election's coming up, but they were based on current events in Oregon City. So there's probably a message hidden there someplace that it might take 2 or 3 smaller neighborhoods going together, and I know the candidates would probably like that better. It's kind of embarrassing from the neighborhood side to invite the candidates to a meeting, and there's more candidates there than there are audience. It's, so.
Maybe you're onto something there, Vernon. Not necessarily, forget about the election or candidates or anything, but maybe if we're gonna try to get more people to turn out, maybe we need to have 2 or 3 neighborhood associations have one meeting and bring in nicer food and make a whole. Yeah, we gotta give people food,
And it
right?
doesn't mean that the neighborhoods would be joined at the hip forever.
No.
They just
no,
co-op
to-
with each
right.
other on different topics
Right.
at different times. And it gets that communication, or knowing Linda a little better today than I did 2 months ago or 3 months ago. It develops that.
Did you hear that right? Better food?
That'll come out of the budget, right?
I think he's tomorrow night, aren't you?
Oh,
Hey, we
have
only
any
gave us
watermelon
store-bought
left over
cookies.
from the picnic?
I would agree that since we're trying to encourage participation, we're also trying to encourage identifying, who the city staff is, who are in the neighborhoods. I think one way might be to broaden it and to encourage, there could be a seasonal thing, or it could be just, a periodic choice of the matter. But joining neighborhoods together would help the neighborhoods, just knowing who else, since we're all trying to do the same thing, work for the community. A little outreach that way would be good. I go for that.
I see Christina is writing things down over there, so I'm sure she's capturing all of that.
I do know that some other neighbor associations outside the city sometimes use like a outside speaker, or like emergency preparedness, or just some topic, and then since the neighborhoods support that speaker, like multiple. So is there, what's the thing that will, if I'm already not going to neighborhood association meetings, what will intrigue me to go to the special joint one? What's like a special thing like a special speaker or a special kind of outside thing that's alluring for the non-regulars?
So the CIC put on emergency preparedness, I think there were 3 sessions, and held them at the Willamette.
Community building.
Yeah. And those were very well attended. People seemed to like it. So, yes, the emergency preparedness special sessions, just citywide.
Who was the presenter for those?
Was it Clack? We had lots of presenters.
Oh, so we kind of had a suite of.
Yeah, so, the fire district, I think we had the guy from Kanema that is always a
Geologist?
geologist.
Scott Burns?
That's him.
He's from
He's
Yeah.
not from
He's
Kenema,
not from
but,
Kenema,
but
but yeah,
he's visited our community
he has, yeah,
Several times.
several times, yeah. We gave a joint meeting with, was a speaker, and McLaughlin neighborhood just came, just tons of them from joint.
Is there anything else on this list that kind of excites you? I think the goal tonight is we choose 1 to 2 projects and make that the work projects for the next year.
Okay, so you're talking about the list on your staff report?
List
Already
on the
got
staff
that?
report should be here. That's kind of the list that was come out through the discussion in August.
I like the static information at the library. It's, they certainly get enough foot traffic, but it would have to be somewhat not tucked away back by the bathroom. But, you know, usually if you're new to town, you're probably gonna hit the library. Hopefully.
What about attending more city events?
Let me give a toss-up here. I kind of like going back to farmer's market, maybe quarterly, but I'm not volunteering. I don't think we need to go back to doing it monthly, but
Yeah, of course. Just speaking personally, that's what got me involved in the neighborhood association the first time was William Gifford at the farmer's market. Grabbed me and drugged me into the booth and wouldn't let me get away until I put a pin in the map and told him what neighborhood I was in.
That guy's on commission, so it's good. That's how we get people.
I got involved with this move next door.
So I'm hearing liking joint meeting concepts, static display, recruitment video, but make it different, make it why you would want to join a neighbor association. I mean, there's a 1-page flyer, but that could maybe be brought into the static display about why neighborhood associations are good things to join.
And the farmer's market booth.
Yeah, if we can get, so what's a good way of ensuring that we can get people next summer? I mean, I think that's the goal, is we can be ambitious, but let's follow through with our
Right.
ambition.
Yeah, maybe that's one for next June, July, when
Okay.
things warm up again. Any other thoughts that aren't on this list? Okay, does that give you some marching orders?
So this is what I'm hearing. And so we can come back November meeting and I can lay out kind of how we can all split up our energy to help make that happen. So I'll kind of suggestions on how the neighbor associations can jointly work on, the ideas of, do we all do one topic and then like there's 3 different joint meetings, or do you find your neighbors and create your own topic? So those are all different options that can be decided. Kind of what would be parts of a static display and who wants to help. And then kind of thinking between now, we can start thinking about how the group wants to go to farmers markets next summer. Does that sound like a good work plan for the next year?
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing
Okay,
nods.
any other comments? All right,
Okay.
we will move on to roundtable. And as we do that, one of the things, if you have ideas for future meeting topics, throw those in as well. So roundtable, we'll start with you, Brian.
Me?
Sure.
Yeah, I did like the joint meeting idea. I think that we're adjacent to both Park Place and McLaughlin primarily. And that's something we can develop a little further, I think. Past that, I don't have a lot to report. But I would like to pursue that.
Okay, great. Roy?
Okay, Hillendale, we had our last steering committee meeting on September 4th. Nothing really major came out of that. We do have our next general meeting tomorrow night, and that's at the Living Hope Church on Myers Road in Oregon City, 7 o'clock, and I believe most of the candidates are going to be there. We did not get our flyer out this month because of the whole thing with us having to publish it now. It just got confused again, so we have been advertising it on different forms of social media to try to make up for it. But that will be tomorrow night. And I don't know what we'll have for food, but I'll see what I come up with, Brian.
You stole my line. I was going to add that I'd heard someplace that they were going to have food there tomorrow night. So show up, bring your friends. You don't have to be a member of any neighborhood association or anything. Show up at 7 o'clock and see what happens.
There you go.
Kanema had a joint meeting with Rivercrest and with the candidates forum. It was well received. And we're having our steering committee meeting, I think it's the 17th of this month, October. It's coming up, it's the 17th.
Okay.
Barkley Hills, we had our meeting last month and we had candidates and we had a really good meeting. It's always a plus when we have a good meeting.
That's right.
Everything got really smooth and everything went really well. And we're having our steering committee meeting next Tuesday.
Great.
That's very good.
Karen?
Well, Vern and Linda took care of 90% of mine. Our next, we will have a steering committee meeting this month. Our next general meeting will be in November. At the moment, we don't have any particularly pressing agenda items. Are there, because I need to know if there's department heads that are dying to get out to Rivercrest. I really haven't heard much, so might be a quick and easy meeting.
Okay. Caulfield, we had our meeting last week, and we heard from some of the candidates, and we also heard from the school district about their bond measure on the November ballot. I do want to throw in, we got to get this postcard situation fixed. The Caulfield ones came out too early. They were about 2.5 or 3 weeks early, and those things have a tendency to vanish. So I don't know what the answer is, but that is causing a problem. Maybe you can comment on that when we come around to you. And what was the other thing I wanted to say? Future meeting, we're trying to get the developers of the Oregon City Golf Course property to our next meeting, or possibly the one after that, to find out where they're at on that project. That's it.
Linda covered our neighborhood.
So Park Place, we had a steering committee meeting on September 17th. I think we had about 20 people there. And since we only have 8 on the steering committee, we're very well attended. Of course, a couple of them were candidates. We have our general meeting October 15th, and the candidates are again going to be there. At least they're scheduled to be there. Who knows?
Look at that.
We do have an issue. For the past 15 years, we've used banners to tell people that our meeting is coming up and what site it's going to be at. Apparently, the city has decided that banners cannot be used in the city. So we're not thrilled with the having what we've been using for the 15 years that I've been in the neighborhood no longer allowed. And we put them up over our 2 entrance signs. And I don't know, and the city was wanting like $1,000 for us to get those approved. But if anybody has any ideas, we've talked with one of the candidates, and after he has finished with his signs, he was going to donate them to us, and we could put contact paper over them saying, we're going to have a meeting. the banner was a much better size for a 40-mile-an-hour highway. So, and if you want to get people to show up at meetings, have lots of land use issues.
That's true.
Or lawsuits.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
The sign thing was important, because we struggle a lot in the communication effort, to let people know. Other than that, and we will have the candidates speak as well as the school board will speak at the meeting. And as usual, we include the OC Police Department, so they can provide some updates to the community. And we also invited what's the name of the water? The South Fork. We invited South Fork because we've got some issues with our water supply coming in, and the park being dug up, and we've got an issue with our place park being dug up, and also some vandalism going on. And so we've got also invited people within the city to participate, to address some of these issues.
McLaughlin Neighborhood. On Thursday, we'll have a steering committee meeting, and our next general meeting is November 1st, and we've already had the candidates come, so boring. Not the meeting, just nothing going on in the future. Apologize.
Christina, anything else, or
Yeah.
maybe you can talk about the postcards?
So postcards, this is like the never ending. We thought we had solved it by providing the date of when we wanted it to be mailed, but those dates are seeming to be ignored or not working with the process that Buell's has, because they actually don't mail them, they send them to a third-party mailer, and they're sending them too early. And so we have had conversations with Buell's. It may end up either we will not be able to resolve it because they won't be able to hold it, a finished product, till a date certain, or we may have to constrict our timelines so they're shorter. But just know that we were over cautious because we didn't want things to come out 4 days before the meeting. So we're just trying to, if we can't get what we want, which is them holding it to that date certain to mail, we might have to reduce our timeline. So our target is just a little bit closer to what we wanted. So you may be seeing a new email from myself and Kelsey with new dates coming up sooner, and it's probably going to be more of a 2-week window.
Okay.
Secondly, for people who have been following the Equitable Housing Project, the Planning Commission is just finishing up their public hearings on that, and it'll soon be moving towards the City Commission hearings on the proposed code changes. If you haven't kept up with the code changes and want to find out where they are going, there are red line copies and final versions on the Planning Commission agenda for next week, as well as links on the Equitable Housing page on the city's website. If you still have questions, you can contact Pete Walter. He's out of the office. We'll be back on Wednesday. He's the planner engaged with the process. That's what I have.
That's it?
And if is there any questions for next week or next month that you want me to work on? Okay, I will send out the Friends of Trees link with their contact information so you can forward that on
Great.
to your
And the
associations.
OC together?
Oh, both presentations, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Conkle?
The only update I have is that we currently have multiple openings on several boards and committees throughout the city. So if you know anybody interested, planning commission, whatnot, please get them to submit an application. So those are open. Quite a few openings coming up.
And the closing date for those applications is October 12th, right?
I can check.
It's October 12th.
Sure.
It's October 12th. Commissioner Shaw?
Well, just one thing, one of the neat things we get to do is attend these little conferences annually, and last Friday and Saturday, well, Thursday also, was the League of Oregon Cities, and this year it was in Eugene, and I went down on Friday and Saturday, and Friday night they had the awards dinner for the Public Works section of it, And we got a silver award for workplace accidents down. Safety. Safety.
We weren't leading the league.
We got silver for paying less workplace accidents, how's that? So, but I'll be bringing the little plaque to you Wednesday night, so that's it. So, pretty nice.
That's it? Okay, anything else for the good of the order? All right, meeting's adjourned.
I think you may have broken my record.
Really?
Yes.
Just